Let me tell you a story. So when I first started to try and improve my life, I still was with my old group of friends. So these were the kind of friends that I grew up with, and we all played video games together, and it was cool. But I started to try and focus more on my health. And so I'm learning about testosterone, and I learned about, sleeping 8 to 9 hours every night. And so I'm starting to go to bed a lot earlier than them. They would want me to keep playing the video games like late at night, but I was like, no, dude, I gotta go to sleep because I was focused on my health. And so this is where they started to make fun of me. And I would watch these videos online that said to cut off these friends that would make fun of you for trying to improve your life. And I hated that advice. I was like, there's gotta be some other way. Like, I really don't want to because they're my friends. And so eventually I just bit the bullet and I cut them off. And spoiler alert, it was a good choice because now I've met, guys on self-improvement in real life, and we go to the gym together, we hang out during the weekends, and it's cool. But before I met these guys, there was a brief point of loneliness. And loneliness is one of the worst feelings you could have as a human. Like, as humans, we are social creatures. But when you're alone, when you feel like the whole world is against you, it just sucks. Even your own family, bro. So I remember none of my family understood. I'm like still the weird child out in my family, but it doesn't really matter because I'm not alone anymore. I have those types of friends, but they would call me extreme. They would say, I'm way too obsessed with my goals. I shouldn't be obsessing over my health, the gym, things like that. But I didn't want to change. I knew this was the right lifestyle. And so during this point of loneliness, I'm sitting in this class. It was gym class. And I would sit with like my head down like that, just have my head down. And the only person that ever spoke to me in that class was the coach, the teacher. He wanted to know about me, and bless his heart, because that's really nice. He's talking to some random kid who's going through a lot, who has some sort of depression, and he could tell. And so one day I see this kid, and I knew he was a goofy kid before, and I see him just goofing around. He does something really funny, and I can't stop laughing. And then one day I see him sitting with this group of guys, and they were watching this movie that they pirated on the school laptop. And so, I grew a pair of balls. I'm like, I'm gonna just go socialize. I'm gonna see what's up. I ended up being friends with those guys for the rest of my high school year. And that dude, the goofy dude, I have a really cool story about him. So he ended up being in my self-improvement friend group. I had that group of two friends who were on self-improvement. They were getting into the gym. And this one dude, he was like the goofy guy. He was one of these random kids at my school. You're friends with him, but you're not really friends with him outside of school. But I started to get him into the gym. We started going to the gym together almost every single day. After the gym, we would go outside, we would do cardio in the swimming pool, we would do like jog sprints down my neighborhood, and I was basically preparing him for the Marines because he was going to go to the Marines. And recently he actually left. And so after he left to go to the Marines, I just really realized how important brotherhood is. Because you can imagine the types of workouts me and him had. We would go to the gym and we would just goof off. We would be laughing so hard to the point where like people would be looking at us from the treadmill and they would be probably thinking like, what the hell is wrong with these kids? But it was fun, okay? So he leaves, and I still have my friend group, my two friends who are on self-improvement, but they're a little busy in life, They have some stuff going on. There's some events that have happened in their life, and so they can't really hang out. We scheduled a hangout for last Saturday, and they didn't really end up showing up because I guess they were busy. I don't really know. I haven't texted them. But I remember that day I was laying down and we scheduled a hangout and no one was texting in the group chat. And I'm just like sitting on my phone. I'm like, please, bro, someone text. Like, I just feel so bored. Like, I want to socialize with someone. And I get a notification, and it's not the notification I wanted. It's from these two girls that I have been intimate with. One of them is just like kind of being flirty, but the other one is wanting to meet up again and be intimate again. And the thing is, I had a realization right at that point, right when I read her message. I was like, the reason why I'm like been pushing her off, I haven't wanted to meet up with her again, it's because I just want to hang out with my friends, bro. Like, let's be honest, The thing is, we don't want to admit it, but bro, you just want to feel loved. And there is nothing wrong with that. Like, as humans, we are programmed to be like tribal. You want to be in a group of people, a group of friends, family. But in the modern day, we just are alone. We don't feel important. We don't feel wanted. We don't feel loved. And this is something I'm actually trying to work on myself. It's summer right now, so I can't really meet people my age. I can meet some people at like the gym, at martial arts, but most of my friends I've met in school, and I'm not starting school until the end of this month. And so the thing that I resorted to when I started to feel alone was, being with women, being intimate. And I genuinely don't know if that's a bad thing to be doing at my age. If it is, I'll learn from my mistakes. But it made me want to teach you something. You see, the other day I got a text from someone, and they were actually talking with me about this topic, loneliness. And I'm probably the best person they could have texted because I have so many stories on that. And I'll remember the thing I told them, but I actually wish I told them this story. I forgot this story. So we're touring this college, me and my mom, and they actually split me and my mom up. She goes with like the parents group, and then the kids get grouped off into like a bunch of random groups of people. And I'm not gonna lie, my group was just all women. It was like bad bitches. I'm not even gonna hold you, bro. It was a bunch of women that were attractive, and there were only 2 other guys in this group. And so what I did was I just grew a pair of balls, and I'm kind of made them into my group. We would all like walk, it's really everyone's in the same group, but like we would always walk together. When we had lunch, we ate together. And so these guys were actually so cool. Like they were like doing sports and stuff, like football, and this other kid was playing baseball, and they were into hunting as well. And it was just cool. It was like, I don't know these people. I've never met them in my life. But since I grew a pair of balls and just decided to go out and socialize, I now made some pretty good friends who were also like, getting into the gym and doing some sort of like healthy stuff like football, baseball, and hunting, whatever. The thing is, imagine I never said, F it, I'm just gonna go out and socialize. That day would have been shit. I would have felt so alone. I would have had to sit alone at lunch, just like how I used to in junior high. But since I, met that friend group in that gym class, since I, went out and socialized when I was at this, college tour, I actually made friends. And that's the thing, bro. You feel like you're alone right now because of how you are, the type of person you are. I'll be honest, we are weird. Like, it is weird to be wanting to improve your life in the modern day, but still, being alone is your responsibility. You need to just go out and socialize. And so let me finish the story. We were done with the tour, and unfortunately I was in this stage of my life where I was in monk mode, and I didn't have any social media. It was a dumb mistake. I think it's so stupid now because it just made me feel even more lonely. And they were asking for my social media. They're like, dude, you're a pretty cool guy. Like, you're doing martial arts and you have muscle. Like, I would love to be friends with you. And I was like, oh man, I don't have any social media. I'm sorry. I haven't talked to them ever since. I haven't seen them ever since. But it's just a story I wanted to tell you because it made me realize, like, loneliness is your responsibility. You, like, no matter what, the type of person you are doesn't like justify your loneliness. There's other people out there that can relate to you, and it is your job to go out there and socialize. Get rejected. Like, honestly, there will be people who think you're like, oh, he's weird, I don't want to be friends with him. It's okay. No one is perfect. And guess what? You're just gonna realize, like, okay, that person who didn't like me, okay, I wasn't gonna be friends with him anyway. Like, he's not the type of person I should be friends with. Oh, this dude, he actually likes that I'm trying to improve my life. Yeah, I'll be friends with him. This is the lifestyle I want you to live. I want you to actually start going out, socializing, talk to people, see if they are polarized people. That means, like, see if they are attracted to your type of character, if they want to be friends with you. If not, that is okay. It is okay for people to not want to be friends with you. You don't have to be friends with 100% of people on earth, okay? Everyone has their different opinions, bro, but when you live this lifestyle where you're actually around your tribe, you remember how I was talking about that goofy kid who eventually got on self-improvement. We did cardio all the time. We went to the gym all the time. We did pranks in like these stores. We would go out and just like prank the employees. That lifestyle, that was one of the most happiest moments of my life, the happiest era of my life. And I really hope after you take my advice, after you hear this story, you can experience that, because it's just beautiful, you know? Being alone, I suffered from it so much, you know, it caused one of the biggest depressions in my life, and I just really hope this video helped you, because I wish this is the advice that someone would have told me when I was younger, okay? But if you want to learn more about how I got this transformation, check out the link in the description for my online course, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.